Former Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's government was behind possible crimes against humanity as it strived to hold on to power last year, says the United Nations. Before Hasina was toppled in a mainly student-led revolution last August, her government oversaw a systematic crackdown on protesters involving hundreds of extrajudicial killings. The UN Human Rights Office said in a fact-finding report on Wednesday. Publishing findings of its inquiry into events in Bangladesh between July 1 and August 15 last year, the UN Rights Office said it had reasonable grounds to believe that the crimes against humanity of murder, torture, imprisonment, and infliction of other inhuman acts have taken place. These alleged crimes committed by the government along with the violent elements of her Awami League party and the Bangladeshi security and intelligence services were part of a widespread and systematic attack against protesters and other civilians, in furtherance of the former government's bid to ensure its continuation in power, the report says. Hasina, 77, who fled into exile to neighboring India, has already defied an arrest warrant to face trial in Bangladesh for crimes against humanity. The UN team found that Bangladesh's security forces had supported Hasina's government throughout the unrest, which began as protests against civil service job quotas and then escalated into calls for her to stand down. The Rights Office said the Hasina government tried systematically to suppress the protests with increasingly violent means. It estimated that as many as 1,400 people may have been killed in those 45 days, while thousands were injured. The vast majority of those killed were shot by Bangladesh's security forces, the Rights Office said, adding 12 to 13% of those killed were minors. The overall death toll projection in the UN report is far higher than the most recent estimate by Bangladesh's interim government of 834. The brutal response was a calculated and well-coordinated strategy by the former government to hold on to power in the face of mass opposition, UN Rights Chief Volker Turk said in a statement. There are reasonable grounds to believe hundreds of extrajudicial killings, extensive arbitrary arrests and detentions, and torture were carried out with the knowledge, coordination, and direction of the political leadership and senior security officials as part of a strategy to suppress the protests. The UN office launched its fact-finding mission at the request of Bangladesh's interim leader Dr. Muhammad Yunus, sending a team including human rights investigators, a forensic physician, and a weapons expert to the country. Wednesday's report is primarily based on more than 230 confidential, in-depth interviews conducted in Bangladesh, including online with victims, witnesses, protest leaders, rights defenders, and others, as well as reviews of medical case files, photos, videos, and other documents. Accountability and justice are essential for national healing and for the future of Bangladesh, Turk said, stressing that the best way forward for Bangladesh is to face the horrific wrongs committed. During the period in question, what was needed, he said, was a comprehensive process of truth-telling, healing, and accountability, and to redress the legacy of serious human rights violations and ensure they can never happen again. Meanwhile, Bangladesh's leading rights group Adhikar said in a report on Wednesday at least a dozen people died in detention since last year's revolution, including by torture and gunshot wounds. The interim government should not let these crimes go unpunished. Adhikar director ASM Nasiruddin Elan told the AFP news agency. Those involved in extrajudicial killings must be brought to justice. Adhikar detailed how security forces during Hasina's 15-year rule engaged in widespread killings to bolster her power and accused the same agencies of continuing to commit human rights violations since she fled. Since she left, Bangladeshi security forces have carried out sweeping arrests against supporters of the Awami League party and loyalists and what they dub her fascist ex-government. Odhikar detailed 12 deaths that took place between August 9 and December 31, 2024. 3 of them were in police custody and the others were under the control of other security units, including the Armed Forces and much feared paramilitary Rapid Action Battalion (RAP). At least 7 victims died after torture and 4 had gunshot wounds, according to Odhikar. Another person was beaten and later pushed off a bridge by the police, it added. Bangladesh security forces are investigating all the cases. Samiuddollah Chaudhuri, the Armed Forces Public Relations Director, told AFP. Police spokesman Inamul Haq Sagar said officers had been ordered to refrain from activities beyond their jurisdiction. Even the friends of the fascist regime have a right to justice, Odhikar's Elan said. Extrajudicial killing must be prevented at any cost.